My parents forgot my wedding because I was getting married before their favorite daughter, but now all the relatives are mad at them and won't go to my sister's wedding. I'm 28 years old, and I got married 8 months ago after being in a relationship for over 5 years. Everyone attended the wedding except my parents and my 26-year-old sister. I wasn't surprised that my sister didn't attend since we never got along well anyway. I sent her an invitation just out of courtesy and politeness. However, my parents not attending was a surprise. It's no secret that my parents have always preferred my sister over me. She's always been better at pretty much everything. She's definitely much more conventionally attractive than I am. I'm short and a bit chubby, while she looks literally like a model, and I'm not exaggerating. If I'm not mistaken, when she was in college, she even did a bit of modeling and was involved in some projects, but then she focused on her career and stopped. She has a business degree, and right after college, she got a job offer at a major company and started quickly climbing the corporate ladder. She's young, beautiful, and successful, and my parents have always been prouder of her than me. To be honest, I don't blame them for that. She's the daughter they can show off. In comparison, I'm quite ordinary. I won't deny it. I don't have the looks or the intelligence. I'm not putting myself down. I'm just being practical. Although I'm not as outstanding as her, I'm quite happy with my life. It used to hurt that my parents weren't as proud of me as they were of her, and they didn't make an effort to give me the same kind of love and affection either. Over time, I just accepted it. It's not like I had another choice. I tried my best to get my parents to treat me the same way since I was a child, but nothing really worked. It's like they were obsessed with my sister, and I was just never going to be good enough. So, what was the point of trying to impress people who clearly weren't going to see the good in you and would only compare you? So, over time, I stopped trying and found peace with it. I started living my own life, and I have to say, my life became much happier after that. Even so, I kept in touch with my parents because I didn't want to create any drama. I knew they were very conscious about keeping up appearances. So, if I suddenly stopped talking to them and cut them out of my life, they'd make a big fuss about it. I honestly didn't think the drama was worth it, so I chose to be there superficially, but other than that, I kept pretty distant from them. They didn't seem to care much either, since they had my sister to obsess over. That's how things had been for the past few years. Then, last year, I got engaged to my longtime boyfriend. Of course, I told my parents all about it. I even invited them, but they didn't show up. It's not like I missed them a lot at the wedding, but it was still a bit shocking because they hadn't even RSVP'd. A lot of people asked about my parents. Nobody was surprised that my sister didn't show up because they knew we didn't have the best relationship, but my parents not attending was a big deal, especially without even an explanation. A couple of days after the wedding, I decided to ask them about it. Even before the wedding, when I noticed they hadn't RSVP'd, I tried to contact them, but they didn't respond. At the time, I thought something was suspicious, but I didn't think too much of it because I had a lot on my mind. After the wedding, however, I really needed some answers. So I decided to confront my parents once and for all. When I called them, they finally answered, even though I thought they were just going to ignore me like they had in the weeks leading up to the wedding. As soon as they answered, they told me they were very upset they couldn't attend the wedding and started saying that I really should have sent them a formal invitation. Obviously, I was very confused because, as far as I knew, I was certain I had invited them. My husband and I meticulously went over the guest list over and over again just to make sure no one was left out. We sent physical and electronic invitations, and I knew for a fact that my parents had received one. When they said they were upset because I hadn't bothered to send them an invitation, I knew something was wrong. While they were telling me how insulted they felt, I decided to double-check if I had actually sent them the invitation or not, and sure enough, I had. I knew for a fact they were trying to manipulate me, but I didn't say anything. I just apologized for my mistake and hung up. Obviously, I was very annoyed because they were trying to make me believe it was somehow my fault, even though they had decided to skip my wedding on purpose for reasons I didn't even know. After that call, I talked to my husband about what had happened and how my parents had tried to manipulate me. He told me he was pretty sure they were just upset because I was getting married before my sister, and that's why they had decided to skip the wedding. Now they were trying to make me believe I hadn't invited them to have an excuse. It was actually my husband who made me realize they were truly upset because I was getting married before my sister. At first, I didn't understand what he meant, but then he brought up several examples. First, when I called my parents to tell them I was engaged, they didn't seem happy at all. They seemed quite shocked, but I just assumed they were surprised I was even informing them, given our pretty cold relationship. I called them before posting it on social media because I thought it was my responsibility as a daughter, and it would be more polite to check in with them. My husband told me he immediately noticed they weren't happy. The expression on their faces wasn't one of pleasant surprise. He didn't mention it to me at the time because he didn't think it was a big deal. It was at the engagement party that he saw my parents sitting in a corner instead of socializing and that they weren't happy. When he tried to talk to them just out of politeness, he saw they were on the phone with my sister, and he could hear her crying on the other end while they were trying to console her. You don't have to be a genius to figure out why they weren't too happy about my engagement. Although my husband couldn't hear what my sister was saying on the other end, he could make a good guess. As soon as my parents realized he was nearby, they put their phones down and started pretending, but it was already too late. I was quite surprised when I found these things out, but a lot of things started making sense. I only found out after the wedding. I'm pretty sure this was the real reason they didn't attend the wedding. It wasn't possible that they hadn't received the invitation, especially when I checked everything multiple times. After they didn't show up for my wedding, I decided I wasn't going to talk to them anymore, not even to keep up appearances. Recently, a couple of weeks ago, I heard from some relatives that my sister is engaged. Apparently, she's been with this guy for the past year. He proposed, and she accepted. I'm happy for her. I know my parents are splashing out on this wedding because they've been bragging about it online. They've already talked to some friends and started looking for huge venues that are going to be quite expensive. My sister has been telling our cousins that she's going to buy her dress at Barawan, and I know it's going to be a huge event. I didn't care too much, but a couple of days ago my parents got in touch with me. They told me it was very cruel of me to try and ruin my sister's wedding. I had no idea what they were talking about. I also told them I didn't care because we hadn't had contact for a long time, and I wasn't interested in fighting with them now. But they told me they knew I had spent the last 8 months since my wedding bad-mouthing my family, and that they were very disappointed in me. They said that all the relatives they had talked to so far showed absolutely no interest in attending the engagement party. Many had already started making up excuses not to attend the wedding. They claimed they knew for sure I had something to do with this because my sister was very upset that our family wasn't going to her engagement party. She decided to vent to one of our cousins, and they told them that apparently I had been telling everyone in the family that my parents didn't attend my wedding because they were upset my sister wasn't getting married before me. According to my parents, I made it seem like they preferred my sister because she's prettier and more successful. They accused me of making them look bad now because of my supposed accusations, and our family was hesitant to attend the engagement party, let alone the wedding. In a way, they were right. After the wedding, there was a phase where, whenever my relatives asked me why my parents hadn't attended, I simply told them what I thought. I was very upset with my parents and their behavior after what my husband had told me. I didn't think I needed to keep quiet. Every time I ran into a relative at a family event and they asked if I had finally gotten an answer as to why my parents weren't at my wedding, I told them the truth. In my opinion, I didn't think I was gossiping or doing anything wrong. It was the plain truth as far as I was concerned. My parents had always been very concerned about appearances, but they couldn't be bothered to do so for my wedding. For them, protecting my sister's feelings was more important than anything else. I had learned my lesson. I wasn't going to make an effort with them anymore. After what my husband told me, I decided honesty was the way to go. At the time, I really didn't think about the consequences. I thought people deserved to know the real reason why my parents didn't attend the wedding. Besides, I don't know why I'd have to lie to people who were asking. What I didn't realize was that the information would spread. At this point, practically the whole family knows. They also know it's because, for them, my sister is a greater priority. Plus, they tried to manipulate me into believing I hadn't invited them. My relatives have now decided they don't want to attend my sister's wedding. They don't want anything to do with my parents. The cousin who told my sister all this had been hearing her talk about the issue for a while. This girl is quite gossipy, so it doesn't surprise me she decided to pass that information along to my sister and parents. I'm pretty sure she just wants to see the drama unfold, and she's in luck because my parents are very upset. They believe I sabotaged everything on purpose. They also think I'm jealous of my sister, so they think I spread these rumors to make them look like the bad guys. They said my husband made up that whole incident, and that none of that happened. They even accused me of deliberately not inviting them, so I'd have an excuse to get sympathy from relatives and make them look like villains. I don't agree with any of that. I'm pretty sure my husband told me the truth, and I'm also sure I definitely sent them the invitations. What does make me feel a bit strange is the fact that because of what I told my relatives, they are now choosing not to attend my sister's wedding. That was never my intention. So, am I the bad guy for telling my whole family the reason my parents didn't attend my wedding? There are reasons I don't get along with my sister, and I never have. The biggest one is that she always tries to put me down. It's not enough for her that our parents already prefer her over me. She needs me to be very aware of it all the time. I really don't know what her problem is, but since our childhood, she has always tried to rub things in my face. It's not like I didn't know she was much more successful than me. When we were kids, she was always at the top of her class. She was good at sports and quite popular. That should have been enough for her, but for some reason, she went out of her way to make me feel bad with her sarcastic remarks, backhanded comments, and stuff like that. She even had her group of friends, who were younger than me, and tried to bully me every day. The only reason I never made a big deal out of it was because I didn't think they were important enough to address. At worst, they were just a minor annoyance to me. They seemed irritating, but I didn't care much about them. As for my sister, I really thought she would eventually outgrow this stupid habit. But she didn't. She continued behaving the same way, making jokes about me, throwing shade, and so on. Even in her adult life, it got to the point where I literally stopped attending places because of her. I don't want to create drama. I'm a non-confrontational person, and I don't enjoy interacting with people I don't like. I just try to stay away from them completely. So, in the past few years, I've only attended family events when it's been absolutely necessary. At smaller gatherings, I usually avoid them just because I don't want to see my sister. So, yeah, that's why I don't get along with her, and I have no regrets about it. It's not like I didn't try to get along with her when we were kids. I really did. But at some point, you just realize that's not the kind of person you want in your life. That's the kind of awakening I had a couple of years ago with my sister, and then again recently with my parents. The only reason I had maintained these relationships for so long despite the hurt they had already caused me was because they were all I had for family. Sure, I have my relatives, but it's not the same. However, now I truly believe my relatives are probably more my family than these people ever have been. So update 1. I started ignoring my parents after reading the comments here. I realized that telling the rest of my family the truth wasn't as bad as they were making it out to be. I simply shared my side of things, and I don't have to feel bad about it. When they started messaging me non-stop, I decided to respond and tell them the same thing. That's when they started arguing with me, accusing me of doing all this on purpose, of wanting to ruin their image in front of the rest of the family just because I've always been jealous of my sister. We were talking on the phone. Before answering, I had already decided in my head that this time I was going to let it all out, because I really needed to vent. As soon as they accused me of being jealous of my sister, I just agreed. I told them that, yes, I was in fact jealous of her, but not for the reasons they thought. I wasn't jealous because she was more successful than me or because she was more conventionally attractive. I was always jealous because, instead of being impartial, they always preferred her over me. I could understand the rest of the world choosing her over me for the reasons I mentioned, but my own parents? I was tired of pretending I didn't care. Things like this affect people, and expecting me not to be affected, to just shrug it off and pretend I was always okay, is completely unreasonable. But I did it because I always hoped that at some point my parents would start valuing me for who I am. That never happened. Even when I wasn't consciously doing it, I was still unconsciously hoping they would value me somehow. That's why I kept quiet about their terrible treatment of me for so many years. But now, when I was finally speaking up, they had a problem with it just because it made them look bad? Well, tough luck. If they think the truth makes them look bad, then maybe they are the problem, not me. If they wanted to look like good parents, maybe they should have been good parents, and then I'd only have wonderful things to say about them. But they gave me this ammunition themselves. So now they have no right to complain that I'm making them look bad. If I want to tell my relatives how my parents have treated me, how they always chose my sister over me, and make a big deal out of it, then I absolutely will. Instead of calling me over and over again to try and get me to change my story, maybe they should try talking to my relatives and convincing them that they aren't the type of people I made them seem to be. Maybe that would be a more productive use of their time. Talking to me won't get them anywhere because I've already said what I have to say. If my relatives have decided to believe me, then good for me. The bottom line is, I'm not fixing the situation for them. I'm not responsible for anyone's reputation but my own. My parents went quiet, probably because they aren't used to this kind of behavior from me. As I've mentioned, I'm non-confrontational and I'm pretty quiet and introverted. So, an outburst like this wasn't something they expected. They probably thought I was just going to let this slide too, but I was tired of being walked over in the hopes that maybe they would value me at some point. After a couple of seconds, my parents told me that since I had already decided they were terrible parents and had such strong opinions about their failure to raise me the same way they raised my sister, they had decided it was time to let me go, to go our separate ways. Until now, they had expected me to fix the situation because they thought I was family, that I was their daughter, and because of that, I would at least care. But now it was clear to them that I was happy they were suffering. They told me that now they had no expectations of me and that I was free to live my life however I wanted. They wouldn't bother me anymore. They ended their little speech by saying that at the end of the day, we were both their daughters. Maybe I just felt like they had always preferred my sister over me because I was the insecure one. According to them, that wasn't their fault, and I shouldn't blame them for it. Even at the end, they couldn't accept that some of this was their fault. They wanted me to be the bad guy. It took a lot of effort to keep my mouth shut, but I didn't say anything because I knew it was useless with them, and there was no point in continuing the argument. I didn't want to end up talking in circles. If they wanted to make me the villain, that was fine by me. At least that would keep them away from me. Now that I've made my point clear and talked to them about how I've felt all these years, I feel much lighter and better. Whatever happens with my sister's wedding or anything else is their problem, not mine. I'm just going to focus on my own life. Update 2. A couple of days ago, I had that conversation with my parents. Today, my sister messaged me and sent me a text saying that what I had said to my parents was very wrong and that they were very upset about it. She went on to say that they had raised me, that they had done everything for me as parents, and that I couldn't just turn my back on them and tell them they hadn't been good enough because, according to her, that was very ungrateful of me. She was acting as if she was the most righteous and virtuous, pretending to be an example of grace and dignity when she's nothing of the sort. I knew she was relishing this opportunity to get one over on me. It really annoyed me, so I didn't even bother replying to her message. I just blocked her. I thought that would be the end of it, but a couple of hours later, my husband called me to tell me he had received a message from an unknown number. Sure enough, it was my sister. In her message, she basically told him the same thing she had told me. Then she had the nerve to tell him he needed to convince me to apologize to our parents because what I was doing was really wrong. She even added that since he's part of the family now, he couldn't just stand on the sidelines like a spectator and let these things happen, especially when, in her words, it made me look like a complete fool. I was furious that she had the nerve to text my husband, but he found it absolutely hilarious. He thought it was funny that my family actually believed texting him and asking him to convince me to apologize was going to work. Thanks to him, I was able to find it funny too and let it go. Otherwise, I really might have lashed out at her. In the last few days, I haven't told anyone what's going on with my parents. I haven't had time to talk to most people because I've been busy with work. However, if someone asks me, or if I run into someone, I'm going to be very open about it. I'm sure that's what will bother my parents the most. I'm not usually one to gossip, but if this is making my parents unhappy, then I'm all for it. The best part is, it's not even gossip. I'm just telling my side of the story. I don't even have to make anything up. I just have to tell people how my parents have actually behaved. That's enough to make people not sympathize with them. The funniest thing about all of this is that even though my parents already know I'm not going to stay quiet anymore or protect the family's reputation by keeping silent, they still do their best to make things worse with stunts like this. Update 3. A couple of weeks have passed since my last update, and my parents have started telling everyone in the family that I've been spreading false rumors about them to make them look bad. According to them, I've been doing this just because I'm jealous of my sister and can't stand the idea of people actually attending her wedding since it's going to be much bigger and more extravagant than mine. I'm pretty sure they thought this strategy would work, painting me as the bad guy in the story and all, but most of our family members had already decided they wanted to be on my side. To be honest, I didn't even have to try. Many of them already felt that my parents pampered my sister too much, even when we were kids. So, my version of events was much more believable to them than any narrative my parents tried to push. Besides, what kind of parents don't receive an invitation to their daughter's wedding and don't ask about it? It's clear to everyone that the invitation was sent, and that was just an excuse from my parents. Many relatives have told them that, and I haven't even had to say anything to them. Instead of just believing my parents, several relatives came to me and told me what my parents had been saying behind my back and, well, their whole plan backfired completely. Now people are laughing at them and their foolishness right along with me. This is karma at its finest, and I'm truly glad they chose to show their true colors to everyone. It's been quite satisfying to see them face the consequences of their actions. Update 4. My sister's wedding has already happened, but since practically no one we know attended, I can't give you details. What I can tell you is that one of my uncles decided to organize a barbecue that day, and almost the whole family gathered. Having a family event where my parents and sister weren't present has been a most interesting experience. I hope there will be many more gatherings like this in the future because it felt so good. No drama, no arguments, none of that nonsense. Just family eating, having fun, and enjoying life. Although I didn't attend my sister's wedding and don't know much about what happened there, I can guess what went down. The posts with indirect jabs at me and the rest of the family don't suggest it was a good party. Quite the opposite, actually. When I got married, even though people missed my wedding, I didn't post anything about it. I just enjoyed the moment. If you need to subtly badmouth other relatives by making accusations that some people didn't attend because they preferred to go to a simple gathering, it really must be bothering you. But so far, no one has reacted to those posts, and it's fine for it to stay that way. At least in my experience, it's best not to keep feeding this problem. Update 5. Yesterday was Thanksgiving, and my parents were invited to a relative's house who decided to host everyone this year. But instead, they decided not to attend. They said they already had plans to spend the day with their true family, meaning my sister and her husband. This relative told them that was fine, but that they shouldn't expect any more invitations in the future, to which my parents responded that they weren't expecting them anyway. Does that mean I won't have to see them at Christmas either? I don't know, but if that's the case, then there won't be any more updates from me. I guess this sums up my parents' stance on all of this.